Okay, very good afternoon, first of all, and I know lunch is all ready, so I'll try to be on time. So the whole idea of this session is to get some perspective of what Neeraj talked about and see how we have implemented that in one of our clients. Just to give you some background, the client that I'm going to talk about is in the pharmaceutical industry. The prediction is that this year this company is going to be number one in terms of revenue. We are currently this is a number 3 position in terms of revenue, but there's a prediction that this is supposed to take the number 1 slot this year. Large pharmaceutical client having operations across the globe, manufacturing plants across North America, India, and Asia Pac. So let me move into the slides to give you a perspective of what we have done for this client, what we are doing, and what is the future plan. The background to this is this client have been running, they are headquartered in India. They've been running all of their IT operations within their 26 legacy data centers for years on. So if you are familiar with the pharmaceutical industry, you know that like most of the other industries, this industry is also coming under huge cost pressure, which necessitated the fact within the CXO level, or the discussion, necessitated the discussion in the CXO level, that what can they do to leverage their IT to get some cost benefits, so to say, and give it back to the business. That's where they thought that they are in a legacy data center. They are running their business with very highly paid workforce out of EMEA, North America, and APAC, in Japan particularly. So they embarked on a program called GIFTS, which is actually a transformation-led IOD. So it was a competitive bid. They were, if I remember correctly, there were about 12 players, both MNCs and IPPs, and obviously we got the contract. Deal value of around 100 million over 5 years. The scope of the program was consolidation of 26 data centers into 3 regional data centers, right? Migration of application into the newly built data centers, and then continue the run support. When I say continue the run support is, you start providing the run support on their legacy or as-is infrastructure, and then continue to provide the run support on the transformed infrastructure. So it's quite a bit of change and quite a bit of moving parts in the whole system. So if you look at this slide, what you see are different corporate functions within this pharma company. And program is centered on 3 areas, as I said: transition, transformation, and service delivery. NGDC is Next Generation Data Center, I'm sure we know that, talked about it. And AMTF is Application Migration Transformation Factory. That is also set up in IDC, so we have all aspects of that being set up as a part of the delivery to this plan. So if I move on, what you see is basically 3 key work streams. They said, 2010, December 20th, you guys take over some part of our legacy data center. So the scope is remote data center services. We do not have help desk and end user computing here. So on 20th of December 2010, we started delivering remote data center services to some of the corporate functions that you have seen in the previous slide. They wanted this service provider to be extremely flexible. First of all, they said that it's not a big bang approach. Some of our corporate functions would not subscribe to this model immediately, right? And within that, they're also saying that, let's say, take example of an R&D. They're saying R&D would give you the work, but they would not give you server administration, or they would not give you database. Vaccines is saying we'll give you database, we'll give you server administration, but not network, not storage, so on and so forth. So you can imagine the complexity that we have to cope with in terms of being absolutely flexible in taking some pieces of work within different corporate functions. So that was the as-is transition, which obviously meant that there was a 3-month period prior to December 20th of December, where we have started the mobilization activity, right? So that's the as-is. In the transformation, once we started that, our transformation team, which is a combination of onshore and largely offshore team, they started taking the servers out of their legacy data centers and start building the next generation data center. Why? Because there's an immense pressure to continue funding the legacy data center. So there's costs around cooling, all of the standard cost elements that's associated with the data center, right? So there was huge pressure to shut down some of the legacy data centers and put those stuff in the new data centers. So we started the run operation, and we were told that first Somerset is a location in US, that data center is going to get closed. They have about 500 or 600 servers. And you guys got to move it out because we're going to shut the legacy data center. One of the commitments that we have made also as a part of the transformation program is our end state model. We will get you up to roughly about 65% virtualization. So you can imagine the fact that just lifting and shifting the box into the new data center would not give us that desired outcome that this company is looking for. So obviously that means P2V and different elements of virtualization that we have to start working on as we started moving the boxes either physically or logically into the new data centers. So there are 3 regional data centers, as I said, one in US, one in Paris, and one in Singapore. And there are all back-to-back data centers in failover. And we started building all of this. So the delivery centers for this is essentially Kolkata, Bangalore, and we have 2 other locations, Buenos Aires and Dalian in China. This team is roughly about 500 people between all of these 4 locations, but China and Buenos Aires is very small. China, because there are some Japanese OS and Japanese databases, for which we have to get people who are familiar with the Japanese knowledge to provide that support. And Buenos Aires, because we get some good AS400 middleware skills, and also closer to the US geography in terms of time zone, right? So that's the scale and footprint of our delivery centers, which were sort of leveraged to provide support. This just talks about the objective of the transformation program. As I told you, we are setting up 3 regional data centers. We have 2 data centers. Let's see, what is this? 20 data centers left. Okay, so 26 data centers, as I said, number of legacy data centers. And as of now, as we speak, 6 of them were completely closed. So we have closed down 6 data centers already. We are successful. The transformation program is still continuing. As we speak, we are migrating applications from our Japan data center into Singapore data center. And by the way, I have not mentioned this, these data centers are not exchange for data centers, these are client data centers. Hosted by third party, like Equinix in Singapore, but Accenture is not physically hosting this. Hosting is out of the scope. These are the 3 boxes where you have Western and Ashburn in US, Marquise 1 and 2 in Paris, and then in Singapore there are 2 data centers there. I'm sure you can't read this, but the whole idea of this thing is what Neeraj spoke earlier about cloud, right? So this is actually a model where we built a private cloud, some elements, most of the elements of a private cloud, especially in the infrastructure layer for this client. So if you look at the, I don't know if this got a highlighter. If you look at the bottom where you see network, storage, and server, we have actually virtualized all these. We have the virtualization of the network layer, the storage layer, and the host layer. Okay. On top of that, if you see the different virtualization technologies that we have deployed to virtualize these 3 key components. If you move up, you have the whole layer of middleware and the databases. And at the top, you see different technologies. So remember this client, we are the strategic partner for this client, and so is BMC. So they are actually deploying whole stack of BMC tools in their infrastructure for management, for orchestration, provisioning, and all of the activities to manage their data center. So that's basically is the crux of their landscape as we move from the current to the new. On the sides, both sides, you see different tools for managing databases, different tools for managing and monitoring your environment. Like, you know, as I said, BMC is the chosen tool. So we use BMC to monitor their infrastructures. We also use BMC for incident problem, change management, and all of that element. And then there are, at the bottom you see release 1, release 2, and audit scope. So this client also wanted to retain few things within their scope, like the BMC hosting is not part of our contract. It's been hosted by another provider, and you know, the instance is extended to the delivery team to manage the incident, change, problem, and all aspects of that. So there were a few things that the client retained. What you see is R1 and R2. R1 was basically, release 1 was basically deploying the metals, the boxes, the racks, and the servers, and all that stuff. The R2 is actually, we started putting the tools, the management tools on top of that, right? So those are release 1 and release 2. The whole idea of this session is to sort of introduce you the level of complexity that we are dealing with this client. So you can read through this, but the key elements of this is, for this client, one thing is very clear, that this is a journey. I mean, we have not yet finished, you know, what we would expect to deliver. While we are talking about this client also wants to do more business, so there is RFI, RFP coming out in different other areas. But the run operation is currently being handled by these 4 delivery centers. The delivery team are also supporting the newly built data centers and elements in it. So there is every day, I mean, if you have to say what's in a day in the life of an engineer working for this client, it's like dealing with plethora of technologies, like dealing with different entities, it's like you know, dealing with migration, it's like there is so many things happening. If I have to sort of filter these in you know, 3 broad areas, first of all, this client requires us to be very flexible, because it's just not a simple you know, time and material contract where you have contracted, you will finish this many number of incidents, you resolve and you go out. That's not the idea. The client says, yes, you have to fix the problem because the applications needs to run. Because if the application breaks, you can't send your drugs to the market. This is a highly regulated industry, so you have to be compliant. So make sure that the production system doesn't break, while you also transform the landscape. So which means that we have to be extremely flexible, and we'll have to, you know, swing our needle. What's the priority? So one day this client tells us that you know, if you're familiar with this industry, there are pharmacovigilance applications, which is basically when you do clinical trials on drugs, you have to report the results, good or bad, to FDAs, which is a regulatory body in US, right, which administers all companies in this industry. So they said, we are replatforming one of our pharmacovigilance application into a new production environment, and you guys have to make sure that this works, the production, the migration is successful, and all of that. So every day, you know, the thing changes. And they have chosen Accenture because we have shown that flexibility, obviously backed by our depth of technology skills and all other aspects that you heard in the morning. But one of the key things is that you have to be flexible. But at the same point of time, you have to be relevant and also push back when there is a need. So you cannot leave everything and just, you know, go with their priorities. So it means that you have to be relevant to this industry, you have to have the industry knowledge, and you have to work with the client. That's number one. Number two is, as you can imagine, it's quite complex in the sense that, you know, there is operation in China, there is operation in Buenos Aires, operation in Kolkata, Bangalore, and all of that. So the entire team has to be in sync. You know, day before yesterday, there was a terrible train crash in Buenos Aires. No one knows about it. But, you know, you got to be aware of the risk that these kind of complex work and diversification brings. along with that. So you have to be aware of the risk, and you have to sort of generate ideas also, because what happens, if there was an incident like, this earthquake in Japan, that impacted our ability. We were at the transition time at that point of time, but that definitely impacted our ability to be on time with the milestones. So the key theme from this second thing is that you have to be aware of the enterprise risk, right? You have to be aware of what's happening in the environment, and you have to generate ideas to see what you can do. So we have to de-risk ourselves every other day. We cannot have anything that's there in one delivery center which is not there in one of the other. Because if something happens in today's world, you should be able to still run the business, right? That's the second thing. And the third thing, since this is a delivery-related presentation, is your ability to execute, which means that we have to have empowerment at the front line so that people can take decisions and people can execute things. Because this is a very diversified team, you cannot centrally manage it. You have to delegate levels of empowerment to the frontliners, right? If you quickly look at this slide, what you see is the Accenture solution in terms of providing remote infrastructure services, building the data centers. By the way, one thing is important. As we migrate the applications, our contract, we are not re-engineering any of these applications for performance or anything. So we build a data center, we build the servers and the storage boxes and all that. We take the application and move it there. So performance is not guaranteed as a part of this work, which also brings in some level of complexity, because some of the legacy application does not scale up into the virtualized environment. What you see on the right is our service offering. They call it lots, which is nothing but the different streams like server, database, middleware, network, so on and so forth. These are some of the key facts which you had seen. So they also retain the architecture and the conceptual design. So this NGDC, the blueprint and architecture, they worked with us, but they actually owned it. So once the architecture blueprint is ready, the conceptual design is signed off, our guys started building the data centers and the boxes and so on and so forth. So if I have to sort of give you 5 minutes for question answer, I know I have 10 minutes. It's called, to do or deliver this kind of complex engagements, you need to have fire in your belly, as they call it, right? So if you look at the F, it's basically you need to be flexible and you need to have the foresight, because you need to really understand what's happening in this industry. This industry is going through a phenomenon called patent cliff, which means all of the blockbuster drugs are expiring their patents. For example, Lipitor for Pfizer has gone on the patent. So Pfizer is losing or is risk to lose several $1 billion of business if that goes off patent, which means a company like Ranbaxy can come up with a generic drug. So you have to be sort of very relevant to the industry, and you have to have the foresight. If you see fire, I is basically for ideation, because these French clients, by the way, there's a lot of cultural elements that our delivery team deals with. We have the office in France, so it's French. We have the people in North America. We have the Japanese and the Chinese, right? So these guys, they continue to come up with ideas. That's very relevant for their business, because these guys are not expert in running the IT shop. So they want Accenture as a strategic advisor to come and give them ideas. That could be small to large scale. But ideas and innovation is very relevant in this case. And R obviously is the reliability factor. This is a major breakthrough for Accenture in that market, in the infrastructure space. And obviously there's a trust that we have to build, right? So we have to be reliable. Even if we can't deliver something, you have to be reliable. And this contract is built in the spirit of collaboration and partnership, right? So that's where it's also important. And at the end of the day, it's execution, right? So you have to execute because it's all about delivery. So with that, I hope I have been able to give you some glimpse of what it looks like to deliver these kind of engagements. We have several other engagements of this scale and complexity. This is the one that we've started, and it's about 14 months or so. It's being more relevant because this is also delivered. 50% of the team is in Kolkata. We've got people from the local market, and they're part of the team. So that's why we have taken this case study. So I'll pause and see if you have any questions. We can have any lunch discussions, any insights from you, anything that you want to do. Yes, please.
I saw that a couple of slides before. Hello. Hello. Yeah, I saw that couple of slides before that you're consolidating data center from 26 to near about 3, right? So most of the things I saw is related to virtualization. Previously it was in 26, and after that it was in 63. How impacting is your the license cost?
How?
Impacting the license cost, because I saw in the you are using the Oracle also, that is 58%. So I think there is a impact in the license cost. How you are managing that license cost physically?
Okay, so all of the tools and license cost is part of their contract. So we are not we are not managing that. Now, as a result of for example, they are retiring a lot of their legacy applications. But I do not know whether they are still paying those licenses or not. But for any of the new elements of technology that we are bringing in, the license cost the client is bearing. So I mean, we have not taken anything to give an example, procurement, let's say, is not part of this, or strategic sourcing is not part of this. They have chosen the tool. We are responsible to sort of implement that and make sure that our run delivers on those technologies, on those stack of technologies, and we are able to migrate the applications into the new platform. That's how. But there is a huge pressure because in the first year there was certain business cases because we based whole of this project that the complete L1 and L2 end to end 100% goes to Accenture. They would only retain the L3, and those L3 are basically doing the project work. So that was the theorem on which they built the business case. So the question that is more relevant for us is that we should absolutely take ownership of their L1 and L2 so that we only have this client, right, deploy the L3 team to do those work that could require their intervention. That's basically is what is more relevant for us. So if we have to go for any technology for help to this client or their SMEs, that's the area that we have to sort of control and take it in-house. That's why there are a lot of technology. We have alliances with EMC, we have alliances with VMC, HP, all of that, right? VMware. So what we are doing is we are also doing a lot of training for our people. At the same point of time, you have to deal with let's say complex batch scheduling like VTOM. Some of you may have not even heard of it, but their end state is a control M. When that will happen is a different question. But you have to deal with these kind of extremes of technology. One for which maybe there is no code available, there is no vendor, nothing. It just runs the business applications, and another one is the new ones. So we are also spending making a lot of investments in terms of getting our people up to speed on latest technologies across host, network, and storage and database. Any other questions?
How do you decide what is the criteria for the steady state operation?
What is the criteria for the steady state operation?
Because you said there were no performance.
No, so what I said was we have to be flexible because sometimes they tell you that fine, we understand there are SLAs, but let's take, we are migrating a big application, very critical application, make sure that you guys are focused on that. But to answer your question, this the third-party advisor for this deal was a company called Compass. And they came out with extremely innovative SLAs. There are about 18 of them. As you know, as I said, the legacy tool sets were not capable to measure those SLAs, all right, because of the complexity in the calculation. To give you a perspective, they want to measure a resolution time of a P1 ticket, they call it SUH, service utilization hour. of a particular business unit. So those are extremely complicated calculations unless you have a full-blown CMDB and all of the other aspects and attributes of your infrastructure captured. But how we measure? Yes, we are measured by SLA. Absolutely, there's no doubt about it. The ones that we cannot measure, we have set up internal KPI targets. So to sort of simplify a bit, we said, look, this can't be measured till you deploy BMC, but this is an internal KPI to make sure that we have the rigor and discipline in our delivery. So we are not going absolutely without any measurement. We have measurement across all aspects of our delivery.
You have an SRO period?
We had a?
SRO period?
That is the waiver period or whatever you call it. The complexity is that there was transition running across every month because you're taking one entities, one key streams. There was a 3-month period. But again, that was very complex because today you have taken R&D database operation. You have to measure that this would only be for 4 months. From the 5th month, this would be, you're liable to pay penalty. But then within that month, there would be another corporate entity who would subscribe with, let's say, server and this thing. So it becomes a complex thing, but inherently there was a 4-month warning period. I think I was shown timeout, so any further questions I would happy to take, or any discussions or any thoughts. With that, I would conclude my session. Thank you very much for being a good patient listener. Thank you.